Teresa Garcia, Cheche Alipat, thank you so much for joining me here on New Mexico in Focus.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. Now, I'll start with you, Teresa. Your commission began its work now more than a year ago in March 2023. What need was the commission created to fill?
The need that the commission was created to fill is really advocating for survivors within our community, specifically to the city of Albuquerque. And so bringing in community members and organizers, as well as lived experience survivors, to serve on this board and just advocate on their behalf to the barriers that exist within the city of Albuquerque. And yeah, just support them as much as we can with the resources at the table as well.
Yeah, inviting folks from lived experiences and organizations that are passionate to address the gaps and the barriers that are the domestic violence and sexual assault. It's not an easy conversation, but it has to be community-led and it has to be survivor-centered. And I think that's what makes this task force, making it permanent as a commission, having a visible, tangible place for people to be able to actually seek assistance and resources.
Okay. What were some of those gaps and barriers, and are they still, how much more do you need to address them to?
We've seen language barriers, we've seen immigration, we've seen not just the physical abuse that needs to be addressed when it comes to systems and courts, but even addressing restraining orders and having legislation that actually communities can understand and use when it comes to addressing violence. We know that safety is a human right and that violence is something that should not be tolerated in any community or any culture. We also know that it affects across socioeconomic class and race and ethnicity, and it does not, we are not immune as a city to not have to know that we need to address the domestic violence and sexual assault issues in our community.
Right. And you know, the survivors have their own experience. None of them are alike or the same. And so just making sure that as they go through the system, you know, they get the support that they need. It takes 7 to 9 times for a survivor to leave an abusive situation. And when there's gaps and barriers, it prevents them from moving forward, right? And so how do we provide a very supportive process for them, including systems, to make sure that they get the support that they need, and there's also safety, because when they leave, it's the most dangerous time for a survivor, right? It's not an easy decision. So I know community sometimes says, right, why don't they just leave if they're in this horrible situation? It's not very easy. There's a lot of factors that play into it. And so this commission is hoping to bridge that and also educate the systems as well in making this process more supportive for the survivor as they, you know, decide to leave, and continue that to also bring safety to their families.
Okay. Now, you mentioned restraining orders. Last May, your group worked to stop a systematic change that would have altered the city's restraining order filing process. Can you describe what the problem was with that, and what was the solution that you all found?
Sure. Yeah, so we had a commission member, Jody Jaramillo from Rape Crisis, come forth and say, hey, there's an issue with wording that's on the restraining order. So it basically stated that it was the survivor's responsibility to serve the restraining order, and some verbiage that caused confusion where maybe the sheriff's office was not going to be able to do that on their behalf. And so this raised huge concern, right? And so we advocated, we talked about it on a commission meeting, and we reached out to Judge Baker at Second Judicial, and within 10 hours, that verbiage was corrected. And so when survivors go and file and obtain the restraining order, it is not their responsibility to serve the restraining order, because that poses a lot of concerns for safety, where that document prevents you from seeing that person. There is the number of yards that you can't be in contact with that person. So giving that responsibility to the survivor to serve it, they're already violating that already. And the danger that comes with it, they're asking and seeking safety to have the restraining order in place. So putting that responsibility on the survivor is very dangerous. And so we corrected it. Second Judicial immediately made those corrections and reached out to survivors that had that prior verbiage to make sure that it was not their responsibility and they felt supported, and also communicated collaboration with the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Department as well to make sure that they also were aware of it. So it was a really amazing collaborative effort.
And I think commission members do not take their jobs here in the commission lightly. Both organizations and systems alike and community organizers and advocates all feel that survivor-centered voices are part of our conversations. And it was brought by a survivor's need, and seeing that barrier and addressing that gap so that systems can bridge that conversation. Because we understand that we have the privilege, we have that privilege to sit at this table and to have these conversations so that systems can also intervene as needed. Sometimes when legislation puts in policies, we do think about the survivors, we do think about it from the data standpoint, but the stories that are shared in the community based is what gets it to the commission, and where we can have actionable items like having restraining orders, and even having a judge that is just as passionate in this work and who's done her work in the DV domestic matters cases, to be able to address it and immediately do that without further conversations on bureaucracy and administrative stuff.
Now, I understand that the Commission is currently working on something called lethality assessments for the city's first responders when they're going into these situations to help identify potential risks to survivors' lives. What would a first responder be looking for in a situation like that to identify a potentially deadly risk in a home?
Yeah, so lethality assessment is something that I believe is going to be instrumental for survivors and also bridging that gap. We've heard a lot of, there's just been a lot of communication and conversations on the commission and making sure that we are bridging those barriers and those gaps, and this falls into place where I'm a survivor of domestic violence. So I would have really loved to have this document in place at the time, because it's an 11 questionnaire basically, that when they go out to the call, they'll ask the survivor these questions, and they'll basically, they'll ask the survivor these questions and rate them as high risk, medium, or low, okay? But the identifying questions that are needed is to identify if they have experienced strangulation, there's guns in the home, if have been threatened by a gun. And another item that has not been in the lethality assessment in past is the sexual assault question, if they have experienced sexual, or if they were sexually assaulted. But this is a key component because it's creating also a record of what happened, as we talked about earlier, right? It takes 7 to 9 times for a survivor to leave. And so asking those questions, first responders are able to identify how to better support them, connect them to resources, and make sure that they are also provided safety, right? Creating a safety plan. So this is something that we have had very thorough conversations for several months in trying to push it through. And it's something that is needed. And again, to also educate first responders. And that could be law enforcement, the Albuquerque Fire Department, BCSO, not just Albuquerque Police Department, but also the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Department. So they can identify all of these number of things, right? So then it will result in training, strangulation training. It'll result in more training for sexual assault, and it'll also result in more training to identify guns. As we know, I believe New Mexico was rated 3rd in the nation for gun violence, and there's quite a few homicides that happened last year, and a lot of them were due to domestic violence. So how do we support survivors, right, when they're advocating and saying there's guns in the home and they're not being taken away? And it also goes back to the extreme order of protection red flag law, where if a survivor is advocating, I've been threatened by a gun, there's a gun in the home, and I'm in fear of being killed, officers then the intention is to go to the home and take the guns away. But that currently right now is not happening. And so we need to make sure that we're also working with legislature and legislators in our community to advocate to make sure that if those who are causing harm don't have access to guns, or the guns are being removed, to prevent future homicides and protect survivors and their families. There's been a lot of situations last year where an Albuquerque Albuquerque police cadet was murdered. It was a murder-suicide, and so it left their 8-year-old without the mom or the dad, right? So how do we continue protecting survivors? And this lethality assessment, I feel, is the key, and we're doing it at the right time, and advocating and recommending, right? Because the commission works on recommendations to put forth to city council and the mayor's office. So we are fiercely recommending to have this lethality assessment in place, where there's 2 lethality assessments currently that we're recommending. It's the MNADV Lab 2.0, so it comes out of Maryland. It's a nationally recognized lethality assessment. And then there's bridging 2 of them, one that currently exists, which is the ODARA. The ODARA focuses more on the lethality of the offender. And then there's the DALE assessment that we're hoping to bridge together to create the lethality assessment, including the strangulation, guns in the home, and sexual assault. And again, this goes back to addressing all of those questions that are sometimes missed and supporting survivors and bridging that gap where they're also connected to services. And so it is a really wraparound, recommendation that we're hoping to have that the city and hopefully City Council will take seriously.
Okay. What will that training look like? And is there a timeline for rolling out these assessments so that it is a continuous part of procedure?
So the danger assessments that we've been still looking into is still being submitted to City Council to look into policy to get it implemented. So as we go through and navigate the conversations regarding organizational structure change, we want to make sure that this also aligns with all of the buy-ins from the system, because we're asking this as a tool and a resource for first responders and advocates alike. It is not just on law enforcement to enforce this. Because of the 11 questions that was thoughtfully and carefully thought by Dr. Jacqueline Campbell, it was the conversation of it's across cultural barriers, across ethnic, socioeconomic barriers to address strangulation, sexual assault, and the idea of gun. I know people would lean into the ODARA, which is the assessment is currently used by APD at this time. ODARA does exist, but ODARA is an Ontario danger risk assessment that does not cover the firearms component. And I think that is where the key part of what we've seen in intimate partner homicide and death reviews, that we've seen in cases, we've seen in the work that we do in the field in the community, is that these 3 factors are a major it increases the risk for homicide, and that's what we're trying to do. It does not change how the courts process work. It does not change how standard operating procedures should change. It should just be an added tool for officers and for first responders, along with community advocates who can implement these tools.
Okay. All right. Thank you both so much for sharing your time and the work that you're doing.
Thank you again, Lou.
Thank you.